Good. So we'll carry on with our speakers, and Denis Gray will give us an update on the Northeast Astronomy Forum.
Okay. Okay, just a little quick sound check. Sound good? Yep, excellent. Okay, thanks very much, Paul, as usual, for working with these events. I was at NEAF again this year, the 32nd annual edition of it at Rockland Community College in New York. This event is held in a giant gymnasium for a large community college, and it's held in a place called Suffern, which is kind of outside of New York City, about a half an hour drive if the traffic is bad, about an hour drive if the traffic is typical. And this animation here gives you a little bit of an idea of what you get to see when you go there, and I'll tell you a little bit about my adventure this most recent opportunity. So what's a NEAF? Sort of talked a little bit about it, but I mean, it's one of the biggest astronomy exhibitions going. There is a similar sort of thing in California, but it's not at the same scale. And it's been sponsored by the Rockland Astronomy Club. I think they're kind of making a lot of money on this. They have a lot of passionate volunteers that show up, and they have a lot of good equipment. So I think it's a very beneficial relationship they have with their local astronomy community there. It started originally with Teleview, who happened to be located in Suffern, New York, and they had their blems on sale, and they kind of started this forum or this trade show way back when, 32 years ago, and it's still they're still a very big participant in this. Obviously, because it's a sort of a gear show, it's all about the equipment for most people, but they've really expanded the enjoyment factor, if you will, by really bringing in very high quality presentations. I was very impressed in the past few times I've been there, the kinds of talks I've heard and seen. And also there's a Northeast Astro Imaging Conference, a NEAC of some kind, which happens the 2 days before the conference opens up. So if you're interested in astrophotography and you want to get in depth how to do it kinds of lessons and have an opportunity to meet and greet with experienced astroimagers, that's available as well. So that's a NEAF. And this is a picture of the exhibition hall that you can see. So you can see kind of goes back like several hundred feet in each direction. There's the scoreboard, and you know, just working through all of that takes the better part of a day if you want to do it thoroughly. NEAC conference is separate registration, happens like on Thursday and Friday, so like $125 or so to take in that conference, but you get the NEAF admission thrown in. And then on Friday they basically do vendor setup and they bring everything in, and then the trade show is Saturday and Sunday. Opens at 9, goes till 5 on Saturday, closes a little earlier on Sunday, and there's presentations and solar observing as well. So I was there, and we had some H-alpha as well as some white light telescopes put on a display by Daystar. So that was kind of cool. Saw some nice prominences and so forth, and that was also part of the adventure. So getting there is part of the fun. So this is kind of the journey that you're looking at. So it's a long drive, about 7 hours or so. I have a new grandniece, so I dropped into Kingston to visit. So I went around the other horn of the lake and went down differently, but it basically is the same thing. It's a bit of a drive. There's an option that does work, and I've done it before through taking Amtrak and a taxi. You can make it work, but certainly driving down is easier. And this year I tried the camping option. So they said there's free camping on site. This is me camping on site by myself. Well, there was one other camper there, but we were kind of lonely. The parking lot filled up quite nicely the next day, but not very many people took the camping option. But I sure appreciated the fact that I didn't have to pay for a night's lodging in New York. But you can just see the building where NEAF is being held there in the background. And this is my little camping trailer and my hangout spot here. So it was a pleasant night in mid-spring. Enjoyed it. Now, this is not my first rodeo here. I went down with a bunch of folks from the Toronto Centre. You may recognize some of these people here and some of our friends from the Toronto Centre. We drove down together in 2010. That was our first opportunity to take it in. We had a good experience, came away with some loot. I went back again in 2014. In this case, I met some rascals from Montreal. They were gracious enough to let me get a picture of them, and we had a nice chat about things at their center and our center and so forth while we were visiting there. This 2023 edition, it's the first in-person opportunity we've had since the pandemic. So I was registered, I think, for the 2020 show, which was canceled due to the pandemic, and then canceled again in 2021, canceled again in 2022. They held over my admission, so I was able to finally take advantage of it. Certainly, what I've noticed when I was down there was a lot more emphasis on astrophotography. First year I was there were a lot of eyepieces everywhere and for sale and so forth. There were still eyepieces for sale, but much more emphasis on astrophotography. The other thing I noticed was that there was there were fewer vendors who were selling on site versus just showing their stuff. And I talked to a few of them and they said, you know, it was just getting the whole sales tax in New York thing arranged and sorted out was just a little bit beyond what they could do. So they basically brought one or two samples and showed them and told you where to buy them and so forth. There were a few dealers that were selling things there, but I would say there was like 3 or 4 of them, not the way it was in past years where you could buy a lot more stuff. Here you could see a lot of stuff, you could try a lot of stuff, but you couldn't actually buy as much. So this was the view of the show floor this year. So I came in early and I had a chance to just sort of scan the show floor and see what's there. That's the big Celestron booth there in the middle with the orange tables there, and this is the ZWO booth here with their mounts and telescopes and equipment, and it goes all the way back to the end of the lobby here. It felt more open, it felt less crowded than it did in prior years, and I think they just spread things out a little bit, but that's sort of to be expected, I think, given where we're at. So that was the first thing I noticed, and then this is the show floor in 2014. So it was a little bit more crowded back then, but still very well, a lot of participation, lots of things to see. One of the things that they emphasized was Pro-Am related programs. There was a whole sort of subsidiary program going on in some of the presentation rooms where they were talking about Pro-Am collaboration. So just, I know it's a little small, but they had a presentation from IOTA with Ted Blank. They had the Lowell Observatory folks there from Flagstaff talking about their Pro-Am programs. Rick Feinberg from formerly of Sky and Telescope was talking and so on. So, I mean, there was a lot of interesting opportunities to meet and greet with people to get more involved with the hobby and to find out more interesting things as you're going along. So one of the first vendors I noticed there was ZWO, and they were selling the mount that I presented a couple of months ago, the AM5, and they were showing that off, but then they were showing this cheaper one, the AM3, and I was going, where were you when I was buying my mount? That was my first thought, because it's more or less the same mount with a slightly smaller load capacity. They also updated their wireless controller and they made it new and they added a few things to it. They also had this interesting class of telescope, which is a sort of the phone-enabled scope imaging system, C-Star S50. And it's one of these scopes, and there's a couple of other ones where there is no eyepiece. It's just a fully automated camera-based thing that talks to your phone and shows you what it's looking at on your phone through an app. So I thought that was interesting. They're experimenting with that kind of new class of telescope equipment, if you will. One of the other emphases I saw there was Eclipse planning for 2023, 2024. I know we'll have some announcements about that as we go through. So both Lunt and Daystar were there selling their H-alpha telescopes and binoculars. So H-alpha binoculars were available. And then Celestron, I thought this was quite cool. They were selling solar eclipse kits. So you can buy a small one or a little one, and it comes with your glasses, and it comes with a bino glasses, and maps and other things like that for about $60. So I think they're going to sell a lot of those. There was some comment at the show about, because this eclipse is going to be so big and so popular, that you should probably get your eclipse equipment in order soon, because there may be a bit of a run on things, there may be shortages. So take that for what it's worth. That was told to me by somebody who was trying to sell me something, so, you know. One of the cool things about going to something like this, of course, free things. You get free things. So there was a guy there who was selling a free magazine. It's an online magazine, practicalastrophotography.com. So apparently if you go to that website, you can get a free magazine. Why not try it? Sky and Telescope was handing out free copies of their April 2023 issue. We also picked up keychain stickers. See, I got one right here. Moon calendars, bags, all kinds of stuff. So there's free things to be had, which is kind of cool. I also saw our friends from IOTA. So they had their promotional booth there. They had some fascinating equipment that went bloop while they were there, and they were showing how they do timing, talking about their exhibitions. They had a whole rundown on their program, and I got to meet some of the principals involved, David and Joan Dunham, as well as some of their recent president of the organization. So that was kind of nice. Joan and David are kind of legendary in the community. They're both in their 80s, so it's kind of like one of those opportunities you have to meet somebody who's like you're impressed with, and it's always nice to do that. Another group that I bumped into was the folks behind Astrophotography Tool. Now these guys are from Slovakia, and this fellow here is the developer, and this is his lovely and talented spouse, and they got matching very orange t-shirts. And they were just there to, you know, sort of meet and greet, and it looked like it was their first time ever trying to promote their software. They have really great software for really cheap, like €6 a year for their software. And they basically handed out a card and said, here you go, 2 free months added to your subscription. And I was able to take advantage of it, and it worked, and it was kind of cool. Again, to kind of meet the people behind some of the stuff that we use every day. This is the one place you can do that easily. I saw this cool demonstration of first contact polymer, which is actually available from Ontario Telescope. I've seen it for sale on their website, but basically you apply this red goop on your optics, like you smear it on, you wait it to dry, and then you peel it off. And apparently that's supposed to clean your mirrors to the atomic level. And it just looks so weird and scary, but cool, you know. Photoniccleaning.com, you can get this too. One of the other things that's cool about going to a show like this, of course, you get to see the inventor class. So this is a guy here who was doing a show and tell on his roll-off observatory automation. So I'll just run that here. So this is his roof coming back. And the big claim to fame here was, we've seen this before, but what he was saying was that he has this running on 12 volts, which I thought was pretty cool, because every other system I've ever seen has always needed more oomph than that. Here's the guy.
And we have a flat light system. One of the things about all of our devices, they are made for observatories. They have wired network interfaces on all of them and built-in web servers. So they don't need a host PC to run. They are still ASCOM compatible, NE compatible, but they also have the built.
Yep. So he was very proud of it, and obviously they're in startup mode, and it was interesting that their notion of a roll-off roof was a cabin for an astrophotography type of rig. Like, it's not like our CAO, GBO public observatory kind of class, but obviously kind of small, but still cool. The other thing was really big telescopes. So this one here was really big, and I was really impressed by this mount.
16-inch stroke, 20-inch stroke. And this mount just throws it around. Yeah.
Just look at that mount. That telescope weighs 150 pounds if it weighs an ounce. And this mount just goes, no big deal.
And this is usually where.
So I thought that was pretty cool. So that's one of the things like that you can have is these sort of, you know, you're drawn to the things that move, right? So the things that move are always attracting attention. Another piece of equipment which I saw was from Prima Luce in Italy, and I was wondering why, what this was and how it was working. And then someone explained to me that the part here rotates around so that you have basically an equatorial mount with no meridian flip. So you can run this thing the whole night long, and because of the way that this mount is structured, it will never ever need to have a meridian flip. So it's another variation, an interesting variation on sort of the German equatorial mount. I didn't see anything else quite like it, and Prima Luce sells a number of other astrophotography add-ons and doodads. It's kind of cool. And then I met some rascals too. So some of you will recall former RASC board member and general man about town from the Hamilton Center, Colin Haig, who works for Diffraction Limited and also sells S-Big cameras. We talked a lot about the S-Big camera industry and so on. And he was telling me some stories out of school where you know, the issues we have with supply chain, and he was explaining what one of the issues they were having is there's one little chip, chip they need for their cameras, and then some supplier said, oh yeah, we got lots of those, no problem. He built the rest of the camera, and then the supplier said, oh no, we don't have any of those. What? So he's got like 200 cameras sitting on a shelf in a warehouse waiting for a chip that is apparently no longer in production. So this kind of stuff is a challenge all the time. They have a new camera, integrated camera system with filter built in, complete sort of system. It's pretty cool, and always fun to chat with Colin. And then we bumped into this guy too. All of us will probably remember good old Charles Darrow. He was working the Prima Luce booth. He even got a free golf shirt from them and everything. Because he uses their products and he enjoys it, and he had a bit of a relationship with the owner, and he said, well, if you're coming to NEAF, sure, I'll come down and help out. So he drove down from Boston and helped out on the booth there. It was good to see him, and he even set me up with some Leaf playoff tickets. Okay, anyway, moving right along. And the other cool thing, of course, was the presentations. We had some excellent speakers there talking about various topics. I thought it was kind of cool. They had a sort of a 7-foot high scale model Saturn V just hanging on there on the stage, and it was good. The only problem was this theater was super heated. It was like, this is so interesting. I can barely stay awake, but this is so interesting because it was literally like 25 or 27 degrees in there. It was super close, and that is something I would hope they can fix for next year. So why might you want to go to this next year? So certainly it's a great opportunity to do a little bit of hardware comparison shopping. I can't think of many other places where you can sort of go run over here and see this guy, and run over here and see that guy, and run over there and see that guy, and compare and contrast different mounts and so forth. What I found was kind of cool was just to meet and greet with some of the vendors and the owners and the inventors that are involved with doing things. Some fascinating discussions with those people. The presentations are really good, and you never know who you're going to bump into. I got some good deals on some equipment there and spare parts and so forth. I didn't actually come away buying that much. I basically bought a book and a few little spare parts. But you know, certainly, what else are you going to do for astronomy in April? It's raining, right? So you may as well go. And you will see really, really big telescopes like this, which is always nice. So the dates for 2024 are not yet set. There's a big solar eclipse coming, so they're going to have to work around that. And they also have to work around the school schedule because they need school to be finished. But I think they don't want the summer term started because they need the full use of that gymnasium in order to hold the event. So I haven't seen what they're doing with that yet. We'll find out soon. And that's my report from NEAF 2023. Let me know if there's any questions.
Great. Thank you very much, Dennis. Great presentation and report. Appreciate that. Any questions in the room? Yes, right here.
Hello. Hi, my name is Atul, and I read about there's a company based in US called Vaonis, VAONIS.
Okay.
And they made observational station. It's like a telescope, I think, the way you explained.
Oh yeah,
You
the
can
white one. Right?
Correct, yeah, Vespera.
Okay.
Any experience with that or any demonstration about that?
They had that for sale. I think they're around $2,000 or so. And there's an app that goes with it and so on. So it's very similar to that ZWO one I was referring to. I didn't really take a close look at it because it's not something that's appealing to me. But I did see it there, and if you had been there, you could have certainly met the people that were selling it for sure.
Okay. And I'm told there's a question online. Enya. Oh, but you need the mic. That's
So we have 2 points from Eric Bricks. First one, he says, I was at NEAF this year, but I didn't see you there, Dennis. And his second point is, you know, Dennis is right about the difference between opportunities to buy versus making connections and agreeing to do a deal after we all go home. That's mostly what I did.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. There were several companies, Eric, that were offering, if you use this code and go to our website right now, you will get 15% off or something like that. So there were certainly deals like that to be had. So if you saw something there and you decided you wanted to do it, you could certainly get them to do something like that. They just couldn't actually sell stuff at the actual show itself.
Any more questions? No? I have one myself.
Sure.
Was there a swap table?
No, there's no swap table.
Okay, never
That's
been.
too
right?
bad. That's too bad, but it would be nice if there was one.
Yeah,
So.
for sure. Okay,
All right,
so
now I have one other thing I just wanted to slip in here. I wanted to introduce us to the new and improved RASC Toronto website. James Lau and I of the IT committee have been working on getting our website upgraded to current technology. This is now up and running and working, and we have all of the stuff that we have there now. And it's essentially, we've been working on getting the website to bring it up to current standards. It's what last had its major refresh in, I think, 2014, 2015. So behind the scenes, there was a lot of work that needed to be done. This website is much more responsive, so you see how the menu goes hamburger-like there, and things stack up and collapse properly, so it should look better on mobile devices. And we also have brought over all of our content, and we've been working on developing things. Now, this Sunday we're proposing to have a little hackathon where we're going to go in and update the content on the website, test everything we can, make notes so that we can get any defects or remaining issues resolved before we turn this over and update our current website. So if anybody's interested in helping with that, all you need to be able to do is to use a computer and click on a browser and make some observations and notes. Please let me know. You can approach me at the meeting if you're here, and if anyone would like to put forward their information, I will put my email out there and you can let me know, because we would love to have some additional participation in terms of this project, making sure that it's going to work for everyone once it's up and running. All right. So thank you very much, everyone, and I will wrap up with that.
Thank you, Dennis, for the presentation and all the work for the new website.